The Mediterranean Sea. The Tunisians lived a leisurely and abundant life by the Blue Sea. The Mediterranean Sea was a gift from nature. Beyond the Mediterranean Sea was a barren desert that burned like fireworks with the Tunisians' life. The Sahara, the uncharted land of sand, is my next destination. Africa is the dream destination of many travelers. Tunisia is a gem-like travel spot that captures the eye of the beholder like a jewel. My next destination is the city of Bedou, in the south of Tunisia. It is 600 kilometers away from the capital, Tunis. The Sahara, which is the world's biggest desert, and the most arid, dry, and barren land on the face of the earth. Takes up 40% of Tunisia. There is a people that lives in this wide, barren land. They are the Bedouin, the people of the desert. I set out to meet the Bedouin, who pioneered their own way in the cruel desert land. I first head to Bedou, the gateway to the Sahara. When you start to see coconut trees planted to block the desert sand, it means you have reached Bedou. I am at the entrance of Bedou, and I think I have met my first Bedouin.
Sahara. 아, 사하라까지 가는 낙타 대상이군요. 공병들 15 jours. 아, 15일 동안 이 낙타를 끌고 아, très bien. Bye. Au revoir.
Tunisian merchants have crossed the desert for thousands of years. The camel continues to be an important companion.
여기가 이제 그 사하라로 가는 대상들이 이 낙타를 타고 사하라부터 아라비아 반도까지 가는 그 낙타들이죠. 이곳 낙타들은 이렇게 등에 범프, 그러니까 혹이 이제 하나만 있는 단복 낙타죠. 근데 이것들이 이제 옛날에 이븐 바투타부터 마르코 폴로니 이 사하라를 지나는 그 모든 사람들의 유일한 교통수단이죠.
The camel was the baggage carrier and guide in a journey without milestones. On my way to the village after seeing the camel, I met a local who was busily heading somewhere in a carriage. I was curious to know where he was going, so I climbed aboard.
염소도 이 자가용 타고 지금 어디로 가? 나들이 가는 것 같아요. Hello.
One of the goals of my travel is to go wherever I am led without a specific destination.
Salam alaikum. Salam alaikum.
Ça va?
That way I can become friends with strangers and experience heartfelt moments that I cannot experience in everyday life.
السلام عليكم.
السلام عليكم.
The carriage dropped me off at the Bedou's cattle market, held every Thursday. The Bedouin who live scattered across the desert meet here once a week to share news and sell goats, sheep, rabbits, and so on.
Ah, 200.
I hear an animal crying somewhere. Maybe it has lost its owner.
Why is he crying? pourquoi? 왜 당나귀가 이렇게 우냐고 물어봤더니 친구랑 헤어져서 그런다고.
To the locals who cannot farm, livestock is the biggest source of income and a source of food as well. It is inevitable that the owners and animals have to say goodbye. I am taken by this small creature here.
정말 이거 애기 같네. 너무 귀여워요. 생각 같아서는 이거 사고 싶은데.
At the corner of the market, Bedouin children have brought baby animals as young as them and are dealing with their customers.
여기는 또 아이들이 이렇게 토끼를 팔고 있네요. Is this yours?
Paquiera says he comes to the market every Thursday. The children learn about life in this market instead of going to classes. In the end, the boy sells 2 rabbits for less than the price of a meal. However, wisdom is gained through hardship. As the Bedouin of the old did, the children will have to go through more hardships to become true owners of the desert. The Bedouin had to overcome harsh conditions. I went in search of an opportunity to see their strength. Another 4 hours by car from Bedou. I arrived at Tatooine, a prime desert city in southern Tunisia. As soon as I enter the city, the rowdy noise draws the attention of this stranger. A large crowd has gathered in the plaza. The crowd is gathered around a performance of people dressed in traditional costumes. What was going on in this desert city?
حضرات السادة والسادات اليوم ثم احتفال المهرجان القصور بتطاوين.
The Tatooine Festival is a traditional festival that existed even before Muslim culture was introduced in Tunisia in the 7th century. A group of people came hearing that there was a festival going on. Their camel handling skills and the camel's costume look significant.
Vous êtes soldat?
따따위는 낙타 부대가 있군요. 군인이시고. Very handsome. Très beau.
Très beau.
في عرض افتتاح مهرجان تطاوين.
These people crossed the desert all the way from the boundary with Algeria for the festival. There was a special reason for that.
قصور الصحراوية بتطاوين. مهرجان قصور الصحراوية بتطاوين.
Around this time, before the seasonal heat starts, the Bedouins open a 3-day festival once a year. The tradition started from the days when they roamed the desert in search of grass and water. Even today, when many of them have left the desert and no longer live nomadic lives, the Bedouin Festival continues. If the festival was an opportunity for the nomads who roamed the desert to meet before, now it is an event for the Bedouin to reaffirm their identity.
Sahara,
The desert fighters that ruled the Sahara Desert under the sizzling sun and their legendary stories. Now impress not only their descendants, but also strangers.
مهرجان كويس مهرجان كويس اخواننا توانسه
굉장히 사하라 그러면 그냥 좀 모래만 있고 그런 줄 알았는데 굉장히 화려하네요. 음악 주시나 봐요.
The performance showed the Bedouins' life and how they conquered the vast desert. Then the performance of jars stacked on the head follows. This is a ritual held before Bedouin fighters set out for battle. The Bedouin believed that they would win if the jars did not topple over. The next performance was the desert fox hunt. The Bedouins enjoyed raising desert foxes as pets because they thought they were intelligent animals.
Le dernier jour, pendant les jours de festival, il y a beaucoup de, comment dirais-je, des choses, des traditions qu'on ne fait pas actuellement, mais ça nous rappelle de nos grands-pères et grands-mères dans les passés.
Having seen the Bedouin tradition and culture through the performance, I wanted to learn more about the desert that the Bedouin took root in. Right at that moment, I found a group of camel vendors on the road to the Sahara.
이분들이 베두인이시고 사하라를 가고 있다 해서 저도 사하라 가고 싶은데 같이 좀 갈 수 있냐고 했더니 이렇게까지 해주네요.
The turban is a necessity in the Sahara Desert.
The sun.
Yeah.
오케이.
Shesh.
셰시.
Yeah.
햇볕 때문에 이렇게.
Shesh Bedouin.
I see.
And we need these camels.
This.
It is a great honor for me to try my first camel ride.
사하라를 정말 한번 가보고 싶었는데 드디어 이제 소원이 이루어지네요. 낙타를 타고 지금 사하라를 가고 있습니다. 믿어지지가 않네요.
I am happy to ride a camel for the first time in my life, but it is more shaky than I had expected.
이 낙타 흔들림이 좀 배 흔들림이랑 비슷해요. 그래서 그 배멀미가 나지 않을까 그런 착각을 일으키기도 하는데 이렇게 막 40일 동안 사하라를 간다는 것이 참 낙타도 참을성이 있지만 그 대상들도 정말 대단한 사람들이다 이런 생각 드네요.
Abul and Ali said that they had loaded their camels with goods, like the merchants of old, and were on their way to Lake Chad at the end of the Sahara Desert. I become one of their party and set out on a long march through the Sahara filled with endless sand. The Sahara is the largest desert in the world. It is 40 times bigger than the Korean Peninsula and spreads across 11 countries. The owners of the African desert in Tunisia and elsewhere set out on the long journey dependent on the camels alone. The Sahara was the shortcut to neighboring countries. The long journey went on for 5 hours. It is difficult for me to even move because of the heat and thirst, but the camel I'm riding shows no signs of tiring. The camel can bear its thirst by getting water from the fat in its hump.
이 끝없는 그 사해 바다 모래 바다를 오니까 막 그 햇볕이 졸리기도 하고 막 그 쉽진 않네요.
I thought we were leaving after a rest, but Ali tied up the camel's hooves.
عليه كل ناحية اللي جا فيها هنا.
نحطه مبشر نعملوا العشية ونعملوا كل شيء هنا للطنجة.
Before setting up his bed, Ali first feeds the camels.
ده نقول باغي.
طيب الشعشيت هذه تدير الخبز يعني.
شعشيت نباهة.
الشعشيت زعما تدير الخبز.
And because the desert becomes very cold at this time, we have to hurry to prepare dinner. The meal always includes nutritious ingredients.
Alushi. Alushi.
Couscous is the staple food of Tunisians and many people in northern Africa. Mutton is cooked with vegetables and tomato in red stock. It is eaten with the pearl millet dried with a yellow spice called saffron. And there is another dish.
이분들 대단하네요. 빵을 그냥 사다가 먹는 것이 아니라 사막에서 직접 만드시네요.
There are no cooking utensils in the desert, so I wonder how they are going to bake the bread. The Bedouin just throws the dough on the sand. And then he covers the dough with heated sand.
전혀 그릇이 없이 그냥 이것도 예술인데요. 이렇게 화덕을 만들어서 거기서 빵을 익혀서 그런데 이제 이것이 뭐 이렇게 지저분하다든가 그런 게 아니라 이분들이 이렇게 수십 년, 수백 년 동안, 수천 년 동안 살아온 생활의 지혜니까 정말 그냥 감탄밖에 안 나오네요.
The Bedouins' natural sand furnace was a product of Bedouin wisdom and how they overcame the harsh environment. A little later, the baked bread is ready. The precious bread was created out of nothing. A little sand on it is nothing.
merci.
All I want is just to taste the bread.
앞들과 알리가 이런 거 먹어서 이렇게 몸이 튼튼한 것 같아요. 굉장히 맛도 좋고 이렇게 모래로 만든 이 빵, 그래서 특히 아주 신비한 느낌이 드네요. good, very good, très bien.
In the meantime, the couscous is ready. Eating my first slow-cooked meal in the middle of the barren land made me think about why the Bedouin continue to live in this desert land that seems uncomfortable from a city dweller's perspective.
C'est le désert, vivre au désert. C'est كما الحوت كي يظهر من البحر يموت. احنا حتى نظهروا حتى نمشوا لبلاصة أخرى لتونس لسوسة للحمامات نمشوا ما نجموش نعيشوا غادي نمشوا ونرجعوا للصحراء. C'est parce que on vit ici, c'est ma vie. C'est les parents, mes parents vivent ici. C'est né ici.
The Bedouin think that all of the Sahara Desert is their home. It does not take much to achieve happiness. What is this? The sand turns into a pillow. The Sahara ceases to be a strange land to me. It is said that in the desert, one can even hear the earth's rotation when the wind stops blowing. My heart swells in the desert night. The next day, I bid farewell to Abdul and Ali, who have to cross the desert, and I head back Duez. The village is crowded. There seem to be more people than I saw on the first day at the cattle market. From children to adults, everyone is dressed in splendid costume. Is there a happy event in the village?
En fait, aujourd'hui, c'est la deuxième journée.
A traditional Bedouin wedding lasts 3 to 7 days, and a large festival is held. The Bedouin who do not have much opportunity to meet in the desert hold big weddings as an opportunity to get together. Today is the second day of the wedding, where the groom and his family come to the bride's home and give gifts and dance together. Making my way out of the parade, I was invited to the groom's home that evening.
Congratulations.
This is the groom, Nasser.
Je suis très content. غدوة في الليل دخل العروس. النهار الثالث يجيبوا العروس العريس. بالجحفة.
وقف وراك العمد هذيك الله يسلمك.
Nasser lives with his older brother. His nephews are greeting the guests in traditional costumes.
Qu'est-ce que votre nom?
Balsam.
Balsam. You?
Yitix.
Yitix. Je suis invité par vous. Oh, thank you.
اسمه هو يوم.
이 사막에서 보는 이 베두인 아이들의 전통 복장이 굉장히 무슨 이국적이기도 하고 정말 예쁘네요.
Suddenly, the children open their hands to show me their palms. They are painted with a traditional dye called henna.
زينة الخاصة بالعراس هذيك.
The bride is decorated all over her body using henna. The Bedouin think that women painted with henna are beautiful. And when guests come, they serve them without reserve.
هذه جلبانة ماكلة تراديسيونيل تقليدية فيها اللحم الماعز.
Other than the yellow pearl millet, it looks similar to couscous I ate in the desert. How does it taste?
우리나라 사람이 입맛에 좀 잘 맞는 것 같네요. 약간 이렇게 매콤하기도 하고 아마 하리살 썼는지 여행할 때 먹으면은 딱 좋다 한국인에게 그런 생각이 드네요.
هذه عاداتنا وتقاليدنا. هذه عاداتنا وتقاليدنا نرحبوا بالضيوف. عايشين متربيين هيك. وديما نرحبوا بالضيوف ومعروفين بالكرم والجود وكل شيء.
Finally, it is the last day of the marriage. It is the day that the bride goes to the groom's home. However, you cannot see the bride in the carriage.
신부를 아무도 볼 수 없도록 아주 여러 겹으로 싸서 그 신비가 오늘 결혼하시는 분이니까 신성하게 부정 타지 않도록 그렇게 치장을 하시네요. 그리고 낙타가 일어나네.
C'est un mariage. Ouais, ce sont les traditions, ce sont les traditions de la Tunisie là. Le sud-ouest de la Tunisie. On appelle ça le jaffa. Oui, le jaffa.
On this day, the camel carrying the bride is also decorated with many colors. The final part of the wedding begins with the camel's departure. The Bedouins' cries and congratulatory dance continue until the carriage reaches the groom's home. The carriage finally reaches the groom's house. Nasser, the groom, nervously awaits his bride. We cannot film the bride because she cannot be shown until she meets the groom. The many guests gathered to congratulate the bride and groom continue on with the festival.
결혼식이 정말 무슨 국가적인 행사 같아요. 이렇게 막 예쁘도 쓰고 수많은 사람들이 모여서 흥겨운 음악과 춤추는 걸 보니까 아주 옛날 어린 시절 생각나네요.
A room has been prepared next to the groom's house. The groom's relatives are busy preparing for something.
Allez, ça après, les danseurs, on a comme ça. Comme tout à l'heure, là-bas, comme ça, c'est ça. Des cartes de fausse monnaie, on achète avec un dinar.
The guests give money and buy this fake money.
Ça, on vient donner un dinar pour dire le mariage, le mari.
As a guest invited to wedding, I also bought some fake money and made a contribution.
정말 이런 결혼식 처음 보네요. 어떤 왕자와 공주님 결혼보다도 성대하고 즐겁고 풍요로운 베두인족의 결혼식 다시 봤습니다.
The grand festival continued into the night. The Sahara that I met was in no way a dry, barren land. It was a beautiful setting for life that was more beautiful than paradise and a blessed land.